Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're zooming way out to analyze a deeply fascinating research report from the Autonomous Archive. We're going to be looking at the flock safety surveillance ecosystem. Now, if you follow modern law enforcement tech or civil liberties at all, you've definitely seen these distinct black cameras popping up on poles in your neighborhood. But the research we're unpacking today suggests that what we think we're seeing is, well, it's kind of a comforting illusion. We are literally just looking at the tip of a very deep, highly integrated iceberg. The lack of transparency surrounding this infrastructure hides a massive, unified system, and the stakes for our public spaces are much, much higher than we realize.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. More than just a camera, 2. Searching for behaviors, 3. The expanding surveillance web, 4. The forever data problem, 5. Chilling real-world impacts, and we'll wrap up with 6. Reclaiming public control. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, more than just a camera.
So you drive past one of these lenses on a neighborhood street, and you naturally have to ask yourself a very simple question. Is it really just a camera on a pole? Our brains desperately want to categorize it alongside, a standard traffic camera or some dusty neighborhood watch CCTV setup. We really want to believe it's just a standalone, passive device recording a single, localized spot to deter petty theft. Honestly, that's exactly how these systems are typically marketed. It's that baseline assumption that allows them to just blend into our daily commute without raising any alarms.
But as the Autonomous Archive report puts it incredibly bluntly, Flock Safety is not merely a camera vendor. It is part of an integrated public safety infrastructure. The reality here is that the physical camera you drive past is simply the most visible edge of a massive surveillance-to-action platform. It's just the hardware. It captures the raw input for an architecture that actively links fixed sensors, historical movement data, dynamic hot lists, and real-time operational mapping all into one unified interface. Basically, you aren't just being recorded, you're being ingested into an entire ecosystem.
Let's actually trace the life cycle of a surveillance event to see exactly how this works in practice. It starts simply enough with capture. The camera takes the photo. But then it rapidly moves to algorithmic enrichment. This is where the AI kicks in, and it extracts data. It identifies not just the license plate, but it adds the vehicle make, the color, or even distinctive attributes like bumper stickers and roof racks. Next, that enriched data is instantly shared across broader networks, where it can be queried and turned into real-time alerts for patrol units. From there, it requires human validation and can quickly escalate into field action by law enforcement, eventually solidifying as downstream evidence in the court systems. So you see, it's a highly integrated chain. It converts a fleeting moment of a passing car into a durable, searchable institutional record.
Moving right along to Section 2, Searching for Behaviors.
Okay, this is where the technology takes a pretty wild pivot. Think about traditional automated license plate recognition, or ALPR. It begins with a known, fixed point, right? An officer knows the exact sequence of numbers and letters they are looking for. But with tools like Flock's freeform AI, the starting point flips entirely. Investigators can actually start with vague, natural language descriptions or contextual human behaviors. Instead of a plate, they might search for a vehicle that was seen, quote, circling an area, or look for a car based purely on its paint color combined with a highly ambiguous witness description.
The report defines this capability as free-form search. It's a tool that translates these natural language descriptions into structured search conditions across the entire network. Now, I know that sounds incredibly advanced and precise, but the research points out a massive critical flaw here. This system can actually encode uncertainty, subjectivity, and human bias straight into investigative leads. When you're searching for a behavior deemed suspicious, like lingering or circling, you are dealing with deeply interpretive queries. The AI creates this appearance of hard technical precision, literally transforming a vague hunch into operational directives, even when the underlying description it was fed is incredibly broad and subjective.
Which brings us to Section 3, the expanding surveillance web.
Think for a second about who is actually buying these cameras. Most of the time, it's private entities. Big box retailers want to monitor their parking lots, or maybe a homeowners association installs them hoping to catch whoever keeps driving on the landscaping or failing to pick up after their dog. But here is the kicker. The data they capture doesn't stay local. It seamlessly flows out to regional fusion centers, federal task forces, and even proxy searches for agencies like ICE and Border Patrol. Private ownership of the hardware definitely does not mean the surveillance stays private. The local dog walker's route is suddenly available to a vast web of data accessors.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that a local community can be wired into a nationwide operational network without the public ever realizing the true scale of the deployment. You end up with this massive centralized operational capacity without centralized ownership. Think about it. A local police department might have strict ethical guidelines or local laws preventing federal data sharing, but they could still be affected by outside agencies operating under totally different standards on the exact same network. The vendor mediates the data flow, effectively turning thousands of isolated neighborhood cameras into a unified national surveillance grid.
Let's dive into Section 4, the forever data problem. This massive scale directly feeds into some severe transparency issues surrounding data retention, or what the report fundamentally exposes as the forever data problem. We're frequently told by vendors that this data is fleeting. While Flock claims a standard 30-day deletion period on its main platform, the reality mapped out in the research is quite different. Deletion from the primary platform does not delete the surveillance event. Derivative data, like exported screenshots, downloads, entries into police records management systems, prosecutor files, and shared intelligence reports, persist downstream indefinitely. A record might vanish from the main platform exactly at the 30-day mark, but it can continue to actively influence an investigation or a legal proceeding for years to come.
Okay, Section 5, chilling real-world impacts.
To truly understand why all of this matters, we have to ground this abstract AI network in the reality of societal concern, because this technology tracks persistent movement history across a massive interconnected geographic area. It inevitably monitors highly sensitive locations. We're talking about the pervasive monitoring of health clinics, religious institutions, political protests, community shelters, and labor activity. The impact on our rights isn't just about whether a camera is pointed directly at a front door. It is about the search radius, the network density, and the analytical inference that reveals exactly who is assembling, where they're worshiping, and what causes they're supporting. The report objectively details how this level of network surveillance creates profound chilling effects on society. When citizens know their movements are mapped and shared, behavior changes. People alter their driving routes, they reduce their attendance at clinics or protests, and they begin to fear basic community association. It impacts fundamental, constitutional rights to physical safety, mobility, due process, and free speech. What initially looks like a simple data privacy issue instantly compounds into real, material, and frankly often frightening consequences for communities just trying to live freely.
Finally, Section 6, reclaiming public control. With all of this in mind, what are the solutions? How do communities navigate this lack of transparency and regain democratic oversight? The overarching recommendation in the research synthesis is a concept called institutional recoverability. This means true democratic control only exists if a community has the practical power to pull the plug. If an agency owns its data on paper but cannot practically export it, correct it, or terminate a contract without losing their core investigative capabilities, then they don't truly have operational control. Moving from a victim of a closed system to an empowered owner requires this standard of recoverability.
Achieving this requires clear pathways to democratic accountability. This means moving way past simple camera counts and demanding strict, verifiable governance at every single step of the chain. Communities should absolutely require pre-acquisition impact reviews before arbitrary new AI features are just turned on. Auditors need independent access to raw evidence logs, not just the summary dashboards provided by the vendor. Agencies must establish strict governance over proxy searches so local limits aren't quietly bypassed. And critically, there must be network-wide correction of derivative errors. If a machine makes a mistake, say misreading a blurry license plate or misinterpreting a vehicle's make, there has to be a mechanism to correct that error across every single downstream database it infected, not just the originating platform. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question. If a privately owned local camera feeds a federal data web, who is really watching? Consider that the next time you see a supposedly simple camera tracking your neighborhood. As we've explored today, we are witnessing a quiet, fundamental transition from localized, device-based surveillance to an integrated institutional infrastructure. The camera is just the visible edge of a much deeper reality. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep asking the big questions about the systems operating quietly all around us.